The story opens with a man named Charlie entering a cafe. He orders a drink and sits down, observing a woman named Emma who is reading a book while listening to music through one earbud. When Emma briefly leaves her seat, Charlie quickly takes a photo of her book cover and searches for its synopsis online. When Emma returns, Charlie approaches her and starts a conversation about the book. Despite his efforts, Emma doesn't respond. Charlie apologizes, thinking he's being intrusive, only to discover that Emma is deaf in one ear and simply didn't hear him. They laugh it off and properly introduce themselves. This awkward beginning surprisingly leads to a smooth connection. They start dating, sharing many memorable moments captured in photos, and eventually decide to get married. Charlie asks his friend Mike for help drafting his wedding speech. He wants to highlight unforgettable memories, like their first date. However, Charlie admits to Mike that he never actually read the book during their first meeting, he just faked it. He also plans to mention how much he loves Emma's laugh, though in reality he finds it overly loud and annoying. Struggling to find genuine, heartfelt words, Mike advises Charlie to skip those parts entirely. Meanwhile, Emma meets with her friends to discuss her relationship and her own wedding speech. She feels stuck on where to begin. She recalls a trip to the Cambridge Library that went wrong. The doors were locked from the inside, and when they tried to open them, the security alarm went off, making it look like a break-in attempt. The narrative also reveals that Emma struggles with mental health issues. One day, after Charlie returns her forgotten wallet to her workplace, she experiences a sudden panic attack once he leaves, her heart racing uncontrollably. Emma's condition worsened, forcing her friends to call an ambulance immediately. Her friends were shocked, asking, "How could no one have known about this before?" It turned out that Emma had never been in a relationship prior to this. At 30 years old, Charlie was her first partner. Meanwhile, Charlie remained skeptical about Emma's hearing loss. To test it, he whispered into her ear, but as expected, she didn't react at all. With the wedding day approaching, Charlie and Emma hired a dance instructor to prepare for their first dance. However, Emma found the choreography stiff and unnatural, suggesting they simply dance the way they usually did. The instructor scolded her, insisting that a wedding performance required proper form, not casual movements. Disappointed, they left and accidentally spotted Paulina, their friend, and the wedding DJ, using illegal drugs. Disturbed by this, Charlie and Emma met up with their married friends, Mike and Rachel, at a restaurant that was nearly closed for the night. They discussed Paulina's drug use, and while Mike and Rachel suggested finding a replacement DJ immediately, Emma insisted it wasn't necessary. The conversation then shifted to sharing their past misdeeds. Mike recounted a trip to Mexico with his ex-girlfriend, Tessa. Tessa was in a bad mood, and after drinking at a bar, they walked through a small alley where a stray dog started barking at them. Instead of calming the situation, Tessa kicked the dog, provoking it to become aggressive. In a moment of cowardice, Mike didn't protect Tessa. Instead, he hid behind her, using her as a shield against the angry animal. Rachel then shared her own dark secret. She admitted to once locking a young child in a closet. The child was a neighbor's kid known for having slow motor skills. One day, the child invited Rachel to see an abandoned caravan in the woods. Bored, Rachel agreed. When they arrived, they found an empty closet inside the structure. For no apparent reason, Rachel locked the child inside the closet until the kid screamed hysterically. Rachel then immediately fled the scene. When the group heard Rachel's story, they fell silent, shocked that she could go so far. Next, they turned to Charlie, asking him to share the worst thing he had ever done. Charlie admitted that at age 14 he had cyberbullied someone, forcing them to move away. However, his friends found the story mundane and boring, dismissing it as typical childhood mischief. Then it was Emma's turn to share her darkest secret. She confessed that at 15, she had planned a school shooting. This incident was also the cause of her hearing loss. While practicing with a rifle, she held it too close to her ear, rupturing her eardrum. Rachel's expression instantly shifted to disgust. She revealed that she had a cousin who was now paralyzed due to a school shooting. Fueled by this connection, Rachel aggressively cornered Emma, refusing to accept any of Emma's explanations or defenses. Rachel's relentless blaming destabilized Emma, causing her to vomit and requiring her to be rushed to the hospital. Later, Emma and Charlie returned home. Emma apologized for ruining the gathering, but Charlie's demeanor had changed. He refused to discuss the matter, suggesting they talk the next day, and began actively avoiding Emma, creating a palpable awkwardness between them. That night, Charlie had a vivid nightmare where all their wedding guests were killed in a shooting. The dream felt terrifyingly real, like a bad omen. The next day, Charlie remained uneasy. He recalled seeing photos from Emma's teenage years and imagined her practicing shooting in the woods. These thoughts intensified his doubts, making him question whether he should proceed with the marriage just days before the wedding. Shortly after, Emma woke up to find Charlie gone. He had gone to see Mike, who urged him to cancel the wedding. Mike warned Charlie against marrying someone with such dangerous tendencies as Emma and suggested he return to his hometown in London. However, Charlie remained hesitant, refusing to believe that Emma had truly intended to go through with such a drastic act. When Charlie returned home, he found Emma waiting for him. She apologized again for her previous confession. Charlie pressed her, asking why she had wanted to carry out a school shooting. Emma explained the origins of her obsession. As a teenager, her family moved to Louisiana, where she struggled to make friends. Overwhelmed by loneliness, she began to feel that everyone hated her. At the same time, school shootings were becoming a common trend, and Emma became obsessed with them, viewing the acts as cool and aesthetically significant. Holding a gun gave her a sense of confidence she had never felt before. She began to cultivate this persona, carrying a rifle as part of the identity she was building. Later that day, Emma and Charlie met with Francis, their wedding photographer, to discuss the shoot schedule. Francis noticed their anxiety and lack of focus, so he suggested a practice session first. During the trial run, Charlie couldn't shake the image of Emma not as the woman he loved, but as the girl who had planned a massacre. This haunting vision disrupted their concentration throughout the session. Afterward, they visited a florist to choose wedding flowers. Charlie remained just as distracted. When Emma asked if he liked the selection, offering to change it if he didn't, Charlie ignored the question. Instead of discussing wedding details, he asked how far she had actually gotten with her plan back then. Emma revealed that she had indeed intended to carry out the shooting recently. However, when she arrived at the school, someone else had already opened fire. The shooter had injured 3 people, one of whom died. This tragedy caused Emma to abort her own plan. In the aftermath, her school implemented empathy training to prevent students from developing similar violent tendencies. Emma was also required to join an anti-violence community. Through these activities, she gradually realized the gravity of her previous intentions and eventually decided to dispose of her weapon. When Charlie asked if she had ever considered doing it again, Emma firmly stated that she had never entertained those thoughts since. However, Charlie's persistent questioning made Emma feel cornered and stressed. She begged him to drop the subject, at least until after the wedding, as she didn't want to ruin their special day. The next morning, Charlie woke up intending to make coffee, but found a mug belonging to Emma with the threatening inscription, "Coffee or I'll shoot," unable to reconcile with this new reality. Charlie impulsively threw the mug away. He then revisited his wedding speech, deleting parts that no longer felt authentic given what he now knew about Emma's past. When Emma arrived, she noticed her missing mug. As she greeted Charlie, she was unknowingly holding a knife in her hand, which terrified him further. Charlie tried to discuss whether past trauma had triggered her shooting plans, but Emma, sensing the direction of the conversation, insisted they stop bringing it up. Later, at work, Charlie found a rifle catalog featuring models on his desk, as if someone had deliberately placed it there to unsettle him. Meanwhile, Emma was confused because Rachel hadn't replied to her messages, despite previously agreeing to be a bridesmaid. Feeling their relationship unraveling, Emma attempted to reset things by reenacting their first meeting, pretending they were strangers just getting to know each other. But Charlie found the gesture ineffective and even absurd. Charlie tried to reassure Emma that they were just having a bad week and shouldn't overthink things. However, Emma became increasingly convinced that Charlie didn't truly trust her, especially after she discovered the mug he had secretly thrown away. This led to a heated argument between them. Around the same time, Rachel finally called to say she would no longer serve as a bridesmaid. The next day, Charlie met with Rachel and Mike to question her decision. Rachel stated that Charlie marrying Emma was a bad idea. Charlie countered by reminding Rachel of her own cruel past act, locking a child in a closet, arguing that her refusal to participate now seemed hypocritical. Charlie explained that Emma's shooting plan hadn't come out of nowhere. It had triggers. He pointed out that many people appear normal on the surface while hiding dark secrets. He revealed that Emma had suffered trauma after losing a close friend in an accident, which left her emotionally burdened and closed off for years. This isolation, he argued, contributed to her extreme thoughts in the past. Although Mike and Rachel showed some empathy, their view of Emma didn't fully change. Rachel insisted she needed to consult her cousin, a shooting victim, before deciding whether she could support someone who had planned such violence. If her cousin agreed, Rachel said she would reconsider. Charlie then tried to find Rachel's cousin, Sam, hoping to persuade him to let Rachel attend the wedding. However, Sam seemed to be avoiding Charlie. Later, back at work, Charlie asked his friend Misha about the worst thing she had ever done. Misha admitted to cheating on her partner. She had been dating a nice guy, but got bored and suddenly cheated. Charlie then posed a hypothetical question. What if you were dating someone who had almost carried out a school shooting? Misha replied that such a scenario would be terrifying. Charlie asked if this knowledge would change Misha's feelings. Misha couldn't give a definite answer, admitting that she would likely report such a person to the police. She viewed that past behavior as a serious red flag, indicating a potential to harm others quickly. Charlie pressed further, asking, what if that person had apologized and promised never to do it again? Misha replied that people with psychopathic tendencies often say exactly that. Her response infuriated Charlie, as it wasn't the reassurance he sought. Misha chased after Charlie, asking what was really going on. Charlie explained that he was just stressed with the wedding approaching. Amidst his emotional turmoil, the situation nearly escalated into an affair, but Charlie couldn't go through with it and stopped himself. He then went to meet Emma at the venue, where preparations for the next day's wedding were underway. Paulina was there, looking well and preparing the music. However, still haunted by what they had seen earlier, Charlie and Emma confronted Paulina about her alleged drug use. Paulina denied it, claiming the person they saw wasn't her. Unconvinced, Emma took a harsher stance, ultimately firing Paulina and kicking her out of the venue. That night, Charlie couldn't sleep, his mind racing with recent events. The next day, the wedding arrived. Charlie and Emma exchanged vows in the presence of family and close friends, including Rachel, who had finally agreed to be a bridesmaid. Mike kicked off the reception with a toast to the couple. Afterward, he pulled Charlie aside to introduce a replacement DJ. Just then, a man named Blake approached Charlie. Blake was Misha's current partner. The event continued with a speech from Emma's father. He praised Emma warmly but also mentioned her teenage involvement in gun control communities, inadvertently touching on the very secret that had been plaguing Charlie's mind. He even mentioned that Emma had once been taken to the police station for assaulting a gun dealer. The speech felt awkward, as some guests were already aware of Emma's background. To make matters worse, her father also brought up a rifle she had lost in the past. At that moment, a loud explosion echoed through the room, coming from the DJ equipment, which only added to the chaos. Next, Rachel was called up to give her bridesmaid speech. She made snide remarks, suggesting that Emma seemed to have so few friends that she had to beg someone to stand by her side. Her subtle insults further soured the atmosphere. Mike signaled for her to stop, and the speech was cut short before things escalated. Uncomfortable, Emma retreated to the restroom to calm down. Inside, she overheard people discussing school shootings, and the conversation seemed directed at her. When she exited, she ran into Misha and asked what they had been talking about. Misha claimed they weren't discussing anything. Suspicious about who was spreading rumors, Emma grabbed Charlie and pulled him out of the room. Panicking, she suspected Rachel had leaked her secret. Charlie tried to reassure her, but Emma remained unsettled, desperate to know how the information had spread. Eventually, Emma discovered that Charlie himself had brought up the topic to Misha. Although he hadn't mentioned Emma by name, the context was clear. Before Emma could confront him, Misha interjected, revealing that she had almost cheated on her partner with Charlie. Misha claimed she had no intention of going through with it and was only trying to comfort Charlie. This revelation made the situation significantly more serious. The three of them returned to the main hall, where Mike urged Charlie to give his speech. Charlie admitted he had prepared a long address, but in his nervous state, he couldn't remember any of it. He began recounting their first meeting at the cafe, trying to frame it like a movie scene. However, as he spoke, his words became rambling and incoherent. He started revealing private matters that should never have been shared publicly. The room fell into an awkward, noisy confusion, making Charlie even more anxious. In that chaotic moment, Charlie spontaneously declared that Emma had never done anything crazy. In the same breath, he confessed to his near affair with Misha. He even stated that even if Emma had killed someone, it wouldn't change his feelings for her. Upon hearing this, Blake suddenly stood up and punched Charlie. The wedding night ended in complete disaster. Charlie returned home to find an empty house. Emma had left, unable to bear the shame. Alone, Charlie tried to contact her while replaying the disastrous events of the wedding in his mind. Later, he went to a cafe to calm down, his face still bruised from the fight. Unexpectedly, Emma arrived. Charlie tried to greet her, but she ignored him and simply placed her order. Then, Emma turned around, greeted him politely, and asked if she could sit nearby. Charlie broke down in tears, apologizing for everything that had happened. Instead of responding to his apology, Emma asked simple questions. Where did he live, and why was his face so bruised? It was as if they were reenacting their first meeting, attempting to restart their relationship from scratch. The film teaches us that everyone has a dark past. What matters most is not who we were, but who we choose to be today.